Welcome to the We Need to Talk with Tony Lindsay podcast. Here on this platform, we try to facilitate the conversations that are usually deemed taboo or just too uncomfortable for most people due to their fear of being judged or even canceled. Now, what's important is this is a safe space where all opinions are welcome. We encourage our listeners to think critically, based in logic and reason, and most importantly, the facts. Because when that happens, we all discover that we have far more in common with each other than we thought. So, let's get started. Peace and welcome, everybody. Welcome to the show, We Need to Talk. I am your host, Tony Lindsay, and I'm here with my co-host, Craig Visions. As usual, we're here to give you the fire. We're here to give it to you straight and direct with real conversations from a common sense perspective, because we see that nowadays, everybody's just kind of speaking based on emotion and everyone's busy fighting with each other. It's just a really volatile situation. So we wanted to bring some levity and maturity and common sense and just bring adults into the room to engage in real critical conversations. Welcome to the show. Well, welcome back, Craig.
Yeah. Your set is looking real nice, man. I'm loving it.
Yeah, thank you, brother. So, things have been a little bit crazy. I know we really haven't had much time to get to work on this show, but now that we have the ball rolling, we're going to be you guys can expect regular content coming from us in the very near future. There's a lot going on. There are a lot of polarizing topics out here, and we just want to get into some of them for you today, just to help provide, as I said before, a little more levity and understanding to this situation. So the first thing that we wanted to get into, we were going to talk about the young man. I think his name is Jack Lee. I'm not really sure of his name. The black teacher who we all thought he was fired. It's a male teacher, black male teacher, and he had a bunch of young female students in his class. He had them take out his hair for some reason. He's very active on TikTok, very active on social media, and a lot of people had major issues with the behavior that he was engaging in. He's very close with the kids. We see that he's a very, very friendly with the children. And I understand the concept of meeting children where they are, but many people have said that his behavior was quite inappropriate. And so we wanted to talk about that because what we first thought he was fired, but apparently he wasn't fired. I guess he was put on leave pending an investigation, and the investigation is over, and he is now cleared to go back to work in the school system. Now, many people are upset about that, but I also see a huge amount of people, particularly black people, who are very happy about this, and they've been expressing this in terms of protection of black masculinity and black men in the education system. So I wanted to just get into that just a little bit. Craig, I'm sure you're aware of the whole entire situation. Now that he's back to work, he put up a video actually kind of saying, like, I told you so. What are your thoughts on that issue?
Well, I mean, to be honest, I never thought it was, my feelings was I didn't think he needed to lose his job, but I think someone needed to sit down and talk to him and explain what his actions were and kind of bring him more in line with what a safety standard that we as society we kind of all kind of adhere to. There are boundaries and there are certain practices that we practice in society, and they're there for a reason. These boundaries are there for a reason because we don't know what a pedophile looks like. We don't, pedophiles, they don't wear a name badge.
That's right.
They're not going to tell you I'm a pedophile. We don't know what predators look like. Anyone can be a predator. But there are certain behaviors and there are certain actions that an adult can exhibit or display when he's interacting with a minor, and that signals the adults to say, well, hold on, that's a little inappropriate. What's going on? We're going to investigate a little further, or we may stop that adult from interacting with that minor. We're going to basically check and make sure that that interaction is safe. So I think what he tried to do was blur the lines between what is permissible between an adult and a child. And when he got pushback, I think he did a lot of gaslighting by calling us the weird ones. We were the ones, the concerned adults. We were the ones who was making it weird. We were the one who was sexualizing something that he called bonding. And I think that is the part that he needed some adjustment. And I didn't watch his video, but from listening to what you was telling me, I don't think he learned any lessons from that. It was more of a vindication that what he
Right. He
was doing.
totally didn't.
Right. So that's the problem that I'm having. I mean, I don't want the brother to lose his job. I don't think he should lose his job. But knowing that he didn't learn anything from this and that he actually feels vindicated in his actions, I think that's problematic.
Well, I have, I guess, a slightly different perspective, but it is quite similar to yours. First, I do think that he should lose his job, and I'll get into that in a second. But something that you said earlier when you were talking about the behavior, when he was acting like we were the weird ones for
Right.
finding it like weird, like we're the weirdos for considering it that way. And I cannot help but notice the correlation or the similarity between that line of thinking and that presentation with pedophiles. If you notice, there's a growing movement of pedophilia where they're trying to normalize that behavior. And they're trying to latch it onto the LGBTQ community. So I don't know if you guys have been following this, but there is a growing movement, a pedophilic movement, where they're saying that it's just a preference and that it shouldn't be so taboo in society and that it should be more accepted and welcome, and that you are the ones who are being weird about the whole entire situation because it's actually technically natural. So for me, when you say that pedophiles don't walk around with a name badge on, in general, yes, that's true. And there are many people, even sometimes within our own families, who may exhibit predatory behavior. So in this day and age, we have to be diligent in our protection of our kids. And so when he is so arrogant in his behavior after he should have, this situation should have humbled this guy, like straight, no matter what, it should have humbled him. But his response during, he was very n- unapologetic, and even now he's acting like he's been not just vindicated, but he's been validated in his behavior. And unfortunately, as a man and as a black man, the problem I have is that people have been presenting this through the lens of black masculinity. That's not black masculinity. And
I can't make the connection. I don't see it.
right. And I'm telling you this as a father, as a black man who's grown up in this society. And masculinity, especially in black men, is does not include a desire to be besties with young girls. And that is literally what we are seeing with this guy. He's a teacher. His students have his text number. They text each other. They speak in a very, what I would consider, inappropriate manner. And sadly, the people who I see who have been excusing this behavior tend to be women. What do you
Yeah.
think? Why do you think so many women are are showing so much support for this man when so many men are telling them
Yeah.
this is not cool?
I think women just see the world through a different lens, and just the more that I interact on social media and the way that we land on opposite spectrums of certain issues, and I mean men and women, I just realized that we're literally wired differently and we see the world differently. And I know there was one video I was watching where they were explaining that when we're like arguing with women, like in a relationship, and you're arguing with your spouse or your girlfriend, that they are conceptualizing or they're working through the argument through their feelings. They are responding to feelings.
So my opinion on this is really more so about as you said, the different wiring between men and women. And I think there are fundamental differences between men and women that should be appreciated. For some reason, over the years, we've come to see these differences as somehow an indicator of superiority or
Right.
inferiority, when the fact is the differences between men and women complement each other. Women are more emotionally driven, And I think that's a plus. That's a benefit because it allows them to empathize and sympathize and nurture. But unfortunately, that's not a very good characteristic to have when you're stepping into the role of leadership and making logical decisions. Men are more logical. Men are more protective. They are more in a position of leadership. If I'm walking down the street with my girl, it's my job to detect any potential danger that may be coming. She, as you, I think I was speaking to you earlier today, she may not see it, but it's
Right.
my job to see it. And so when fathers all over the world are telling you that is creep behavior and it opens the door to something that you're not ready for, ladies, just listen to us because it is our position. We are men. We understand how other men think. We have been around these things. It is our job to protect, especially to protect the younger generation. So when we see things like this and we're telling you that's some weird shit, just take us at face value and just listen.
Yeah. So my main thing with him was that every his story for me initially, and this is about a couple of months ago, so I may have forgotten like the particulars, but his story basically I didn't really buy into it because I felt like everything that he said that this conflict, this scheduling conflict with him having a hair appointment and he had like an appointment the next day, he had to get it done. The only way that he can solve this scheduling conflict was to have
Right.
children in his class come do his hair. But all of that to me, I felt like he set that up. He staged everything. He made it so the solution would be the children come down
True.
and take his hair out. Here's my thing. He
Well, how do you know?
he
But
didn't.
what makes you believe that though? Would it have been his opening statement when he put the videos like,
Yes,
"Hey, I'm going to shake things
yes,
up now"?
right. So
Okay.
that was the wording that kind of that triggered me a little bit. And he was like, "Let's stir the pot a little bit." That was his exact
Right.
word. So he understood the optics,
Of what he was
and
doing.
I guess he just wanted to prove that he's that guy, he's that teacher, he's the guy that has cracked the code, and he's
Yes.
able to have these relationships that no one else is able to do
Right.
because I have found a way to connect with children on a level that even um, allowing them into my space and normalizing personal touch and touch and that type of
Yeah. Just trust me. You can trust me.
right,
I got you.
like it's all good. Look how far we can go. Like me, this bond is so plutonic. I'm such a cool teacher. Look at this.
Mm.
He knew what the optics was. That's why he went live, and he wanted the engagement. He wanted the backlash. But what I didn't like what he did was he gaslit every person who saw that and had a problem with it. And he asked them, like you were saying, why are you making it weird? And I thought that was disingenuous because you're fully aware of the optics and you understand what's going on. You understand that doing hair is very intimate. He wanted that conflict because I think he's
Right.
addicted to, like you said, he's on TikTok,
Attention.
right?
Yeah, yeah. That I mean, it's
Right.
content, and I think that's problematic in itself that you're posting all of these videos with minors, right? Because we all know that the internet can be a very unforgiving place. It's a very toxic place. So that's why we always warn about posting children, especially. And I'm wondering, do their parents know that they're
Yeah,
in
they know.
each and every
They
one of these
you know
videos?
They
Do they? Because
absolutely know.
I've
So
seen
he
some
went
of
as
his.
far. I mean, listen, he had all his bases covered in his
Oh, he
in,
knew.
in his follow up videos. He was like, "Oh, listen, only the kids who were doing well was allowed to come down to my class, and only the kids. And I know their parents, and their parents signed release forms so that they can be on my videos. Like, so he knew what the backlash would be. He knew some of the what some of the concerns would be, and he had prepared rebuttals for every complaint
Right.
that
So he
possibly
was
can be
he was
thrown at
all
him.
in. So
It
he
was
was all
all
in from the
intentional,
gate.
and I didn't really that in itself rubbed me a little the wrong way a little bit that he was so prepared and it was just so well thought out, but yet he knows enough to say let's stir the pot.
And
I
then,
don't I don't know.
but something you said a little bit earlier when you said that, he was like, look how, when you said what you believe was in his mind. was like, look how far we can go. Like, look how
Right.
far I can take this. But I think that's actually a poignant point, because that's what predators want to do.
Right.
Now, I'm not calling him a predator, and he may have very well had the best intentions, but when you engage in certain behavior that normalizes uh, a certain type of intimate relationship between adult men and especially young girls, that emboldens the bad actors. It emboldens the predators to want to move forward and see how far they can go. So maybe it wasn't even his intention, but you're enticing. And that's our
Right.
job as men, to see that danger or the potential danger coming. So this is not to say that this guy's a bad person. I don't know him. Maybe he had the best intentions, but at the same time, I don't know if he had the best intentions.
Right. Right.
I'm not willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. That's my job as a man. That's
Right.
masculinity, ladies. When we
Right.
say, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, if all of that is platonic and this and good, maybe it's a little cute. It's a little weird. I don't really like this guy. He's not their father. He's not their uncle. Why is he, first of all, in school? Why are they, they're all up on him and taking his hair out, and he does kind of have that weirdo look on his face too. I don't know if
Yeah.
anybody ever noticed that, like the bulging eyes, like he looked like he's up to some shit. But that's just what we detect as men. Maybe he's a nice guy. So, but I just think that um, women need to start listening to men more, especially on matters of protection, particularly matters of the protection of our children.
But why do you think? Let me throw the question to you. Why do you think that? Because as I was online, like it literally was like polar opposites. Like we, all the men kind of fell on one side where they was like, "This is inappropriate. I wouldn't be happy if I saw my daughter doing this," and all the women was kind of in support of it. So, I mean, why do you think that we're like so separated along these gender lines?
I mean, it's just the whole political environment nowadays. It's so many different factors. It's the feminist movement. It's just so many outside factors, even down to corporations playing on the division between men and women. All of these external societal social factors, they all come into play because our collective dysfunction, especially black relationships, is profitable. It feeds a lot of these justice movements. Ironically, it's feeding movements for justice that actually serve to create injustice, and quite often uh, it leaves our children abandoned and alone and vulnerable. So, and I would ask this question. First I'd ask fathers out there, if your teenage daughter or your preteen daughter came to you and said, "Hey, my teacher, Mr. So and so, he wants to know if I can braid his hair or if I can take out his hair," would you think that's normal?
I
And I
know
would
I
ask
would.
the women the same thing. Like, are you okay with your daughter? She was like, "Yeah, Mr. So and so wants me to braid his hair or take his hair out after school. Is that okay with no other adults present?"
Yeah.
Y'all cool with that?
You know what I that's the part I didn't like. I didn't like that while we were going through our discourse. You know how we do when social media gets crazy in the comments, and a lot of the comments was like really trying to like make anyone who had a problem make us the pedophile, or make us the person who's the weirdo. And one of the themes that was like recurring was, why do we have to sexualize everything, right? So they're basically saying we can look at this as for what it is, and it doesn't have to be related to anything sexual. It's just kids bonding with their teacher in a way that's innocent and whatever.
I would have the perfect response for that. When you say, why do we have to sexualize everything? I mean, why don't you ask all of the young girls who were molested by family members or people close to the family who trusted them in the presence of adults who were just thinking along those same lines? Why are you making everything sexual? He loves her. This is platonic. It's appropriate. It's okay. How do you explain that? Were they paid? I
Huh?
wonder, were they paid for this? Was this a business transaction,
I don't
or was
know.
this
You
just
mean
a
to
school
make these
project?
support videos? Or you
Yeah,
mean
like
the kids?
no, were the kids paid for what they did?
No.
I
So
think that's
his
an
his
interesting
his
question.
thing was that these kids are future locticians. These kids are future nail techs. So he's
Yeah.
actually helping them. He's actually
Okay.
helping them,
Yeah.
practice their craft by letting them take out his hair.
Okay.
I mean, he had all the answers, bro. He
Okay.
covered all his bases.
Yep.
So who are we to stop them from learning or practicing their craft? And that's all he's doing. Is so innocent. It's I
It's
don't know, bro.
always innocent. It's
It,
always
it, it's
innocent.
innocent until it's not. I was talking to my girlfriend, and she was telling me that even if he had the best intention and he doesn't feel any way, he doesn't know what effect that is having on those young girls. We never know,
Yep.
or you
They
don't
can have a
know if
crush
the
on
young girls
him.
develop right. And if
Yes.
and if being that close to him is
They
something
want to be
that's
around older men.
exactly. So what he could be doing inadvertently is maybe he's not the
Enticing them.
danger, but he is normalizing personal touch. He's normalizing that personal touch behavior and desensitizing these children. So now when they are in the presence of someone who does have bad intentions or bad will for them, they won't be able to recognize the boundaries that you're supposed to set between adult and child. You have already normalized personal touch, so maybe they
Yeah,
don't
but that
feel a way of being that close to another adult who has bad intentions to them.
but
So you're
there's
setting them
also
up hard.
But there's also another angle to that. You can be enticing them. We know that young girls develop faster than boys. They get these crushes. And you remember growing up, it was always the young girls that we saw them older dudes coming to pick up these young girls from
Bro,
middle school and high school. You know what I'm saying? So
I remember
that
that.
behavior, he always got his
Yep,
shirt off. He's always on TikTok,
yep,
do his little muscles and all that. He can be enticing those young girls who don't
right.
know any better. And they can even have it in their mind this crush, a crush on this older man who's giving them this certain amount of attention. And
Yeah,
so when he's gone, later on, they may be seeking that same attention or attracted to that attention, looking for it from another older man as they move on later in life. So people have to be
right.
careful. You're setting an example as an adult, and you have a responsibility to make sure that you are doing things in the safest way possible, and you have to be able to anticipate any potential future danger ahead. So thanks guys for joining us for this episode of We Need to Talk. I want to thank Craig for coming in and as usual dropping some gems on us. We had an amazing conversation today and I look forward to engaging in more conversations. We're going to be having some great future guests coming on, and so you guys just stay tuned and always remember, ask questions. We thrive on the idea of asking questions so that we can become better informed. And as I always say, you have a moral responsibility to question everything that you've been taught. Because if you don't do that, you're nothing more than a mouthpiece for someone else's point of view or their opinion. Thanks for coming. Thanks for joining us. And we'll see you soon. And we need to talk. Peace.
Peace, y'all.